Hello everyone, my name is Alina Odin and today I'm going to be talking about the nitrogen cycle. So, when most people think about owning a fish tank, they think about having clear water, colorful fish, and something relaxing to look at. But what they don't realize is that a fish tank is actually a small living ecosystem, and that ecosystem needs to be kept balanced to keep the fish alive. Now, one of the most important parts about the ecosystem is something called the nitrogen cycle. The nitrogen cycle is a process that breaks down waste in the tank and turns harmful substances into less dangerous ones. Without this cycle, the cleanest tanks can become extremely toxic to the fish, and they can get sick or die. Now, understanding this process is what separates a successful fish tank to an unsuccessful one that constantly has problems. Now, the nitrogen cycle starts with waste, so it can come from anything like food or waste that the fish or anything else in the tank produces. Now, when they eat or breathe, the leftover food and the dead plants break down into the water. All of this creates ammonia, which is extremely toxic to the fish, even in small amounts. You cannot always see the ammonia, but it's one of the most dangerous parts of the tank, especially to the fish, of course. Now, luckily, beneficial bacteria begins to grow naturally in the tank and helps break it down. Now, most living things have this system, even like human bodies. There's a system like when you bring in bad things, the body knows how to kick it out. And it's the same thing with a fish tank. It's just always in a cycle. So, the first type of bacteria that converts ammonia to nitrate. Nitrate is still toxic, but less harmful to fish compared to ammonia. Now, the second type of bacteria converts from nitrates to nitrites. Sounds similar, they're almost spelled the same, and I always get them confused. But there is a difference. Nitrites or nitrites are way more safer for fish in small amounts. But this is a step-by-step process which we call the nitrogen cycle. Even though nitrogen is safer, nitrites is safer, it can still build up over time and cause problems if it isn't controlled. That's why fish owners need to do regular water changes to remove excess nitrates to keep the water healthy. But when you do water changes, you don't want to completely change out the water. That's a mistake that a lot of new fish owners make. They completely change out the entire water in the tank, and what happens is that nitrogen cycle completely starts over from the beginning, and you lose all the healthy bacteria that you had. So you never want to completely empty out the water. When you change the water, you probably want to do about 20 to 50%, because when you take away all that stuff, it leaves the fish vulnerable, and they can end up dying. And it's something that you can learn through research. So that's why we have to do regular water changes to keep the water healthy. And plants can also help by absorbing some of the nitrates as they grow. So plants are really good. You can also use house plants like pothos. You can put the roots in the tank and you can have it grow out. It's beautiful, I think, in my opinion at least. Now, the most important thing to understand is that the nitrogen cycle does not happen instantly. When setting up a new tank, it takes several weeks for the beneficial bacteria to grow and fully establish. During this time, the tank is very unstable, and the more fish that are in there during this time, the more they are at risk. And this is why a lot of people that are starting a fish tank, they have problems with their fish dying because they don't know that there's a cycle that they have to wait until it's finished in order to put the fish in. So they add them too early, and they don't realize that the cycle isn't complete. So, in conclusion, the nitrogen cycle is the foundation of having a healthy tank. It takes a lot of time and effort to get to your tank to where it wants to be, but in the end, it's always worth it to have a beautiful tank and just something amazing to look at. And it's so natural, and you can just have it in the small corner of your home. So, without having the nitrogen cycle, fish cannot survive for long. No matter how clean the tank looks, by understanding how ammonia and nitrates and nitrites work, fish owners can create a stable and safe environment for their fish. Learning about the nitrogen cycle may seem complicated at first, but it's one of the most important things to know if you want your fish to live and thrive. Once you understand it, taking care of a fish becomes much easier and way more successful. And the way to test your water, if you wanted to know, you can buy a tester kit at Petco or Amazon. You can buy it almost from anywhere. And it gives you instructions on how you can test the pH, the ammonia, nitrates, nitrites. You can test everything. So, thank you for listening to my speech about the nitrogen cycle.